simply mean?
A song of peace, declaring freedom.
I wish that my master could go to the prophet.
Now can the door be opened to you?
This day, Goliath, the Lord will deliver you into my hands.
Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love.
Elevate TV, advancing kingdom lifestyle.
Good evening, good day, wherever you're watching from, viewers. Welcome to another episode of the Gichuki Report. I'm your host, Godfrey, Gichuki, and I'm very happy to have you joining us this evening one more time for an amazing conversation, deep, big, bold, and honest conversation on a broad range of subject matters. I always say that we dive into matters, politics, social, cultural, economic, theological, and philosophical issues. And today we are going to be talking about some social, cultural, economic issues. And we're going to be looking at some of the global, issues, economic issues that are going on. Today, we are focusing specifically on the issue of the tariffs, okay? The tariff wars and what that actually means and the implications of, the American tariffs. Donald J. Trump's tariff that have kind of like reset the world economic order and created a lot of conversation. We have not addressed this subject on this show, and today is the day to address that. So join us, and please, those of you that are following us on our social media platforms, remember to share and also remember to subscribe. We are live on Elevate TV, YouTube, Elevate TV Kenya, YouTube, and Facebook channels, and we welcome you to join us in this conversation. And with me on the set is my friend, who I think we become like he's a real member of this particular show. Very coming in very frequently to talk about some of these issues. That's no other than Leonard Khafafa. He's a journalist. He's actually a columnist on the Standard Group, newspaper. He's also an economic and governance, analyst and consultant, and particular interest in the aviation industry. Widely traveled, very vast in the area of the aviation and the industry and the global trade. So, welcome to the show one more time. I'm very happy to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me again.
Wonderful. Yeah. So I think maybe you can just welcome our viewers. You can look at that camera, welcome our viewers before we get into the conversation right away. I believe we're going to have a very wonderful conversation.
Viewers, as you've heard, my name is Leonard Khafafa. Welcome to the show. We are going to have a fantastic conversation going round.
Yes. So karibuni sana. I had said please remember to share. Please ask your friends to join us, and we're going to go straight into the conversation. I think when you think about tariffs, when you hear about tariffs, this is an instrument that is used, and I'm going to be asking my guest here, Leonard, to actually give us the details. But tariffs are interesting. Every time you import something into the country, you pay certain duties and tariffs. So they kind of are combined, sometimes very difficult to tell. But countries keep on shifting the kind of fees they charge for when you import into those particular country. So there are certain tariffs kind of distinguished. You know, if a country puts a tariff barrier, it means, for example, that say Kenyan eggs will be expensive in Uganda and Uganda eggs will be cheaper in Kenya, etc. So we're going to be diving into all that. But of course, this subject has become very, very interesting because America did actually introduce very, very interesting tariffs. They have picked up war with everyone, and we're going to be diving into that. All right, so Leonard, let's go right into the conversation. Give us a quick overview of tariffs, what they are, and how countries use them. I have alluded to some of those things, but you are the expert. Tell us what's happening. What is this all about?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's start by definition of tariffs. Tariffs are essentially taxes on imports into a country. Anything that is imported into a country that is levied, a charge that is levied on things that are imported in the country, we call those tariffs. And tariffs are intended to protect a country's industries from unfair competition from the outside. Let's say, for example, Kenya and the manufacturing of, say, shirts, for instance. We have shirts maybe manufactured at about 100 shillings. I'm just giving figures out of my head, not really accurate figures. But say we manufacture shirts for about 100 shillings, and country X manufactures the same shirt at about 25 shillings. People would find it cheaper to go to country X, buy the shirt for 25 shillings and come and either put it on or sell it even for 75 shillings, undercutting the manufacturing of shirts at 100 shillings in Kenya. So what happens is that the government of Kenya levies a tax, a tariff on the import from country X, so that it's no longer 75 shillings to bring it into the country. You add a tariff, say, of about 50 shillings, so that it becomes, say, 125 shillings, making it more expensive than the Kenyan shirt.
Okay.
In that way, you protect the Kenyan market. Consumers in Kenya find it cheaper than to buy Kenyan goods, as opposed to buying from country X. So that's the essential definition of a tariff, a tax that is levied on imports to protect the industries of a particular country. Then, of course, the other definition that we need to know is reciprocal tariffs. What are reciprocal tariffs? We've had Donald Trump, the president of America, talking about reciprocal tariffs. Reciprocal tariffs are tariffs that are intended to address a trade deficit in a country.
Okay.
Say we have a country like Kenya. It exports goods, say, worth $1 billion to a particular, out of the country. Just giving again top of the head figures.
Let's say
are not
Tanzania.
accurate. Yeah. Say we export about $1 billion shillings in total. And we import goods worth about 2 billion shillings.
Okay.
It means we have a deficit. When you look at the value of our goods going out compared to the value of the goods coming in that we have to pay for, there's a difference of about 1 billion shillings, because we are sending out goods worth 1 billion and you're spending money to import goods worth 2 billion.
Okay.
So that is a deficit. That's what we call a trade deficit. So a reciprocal tariff then works to address that deficit, so that you levy tariffs on goods that are coming in as a government, so that you collect money and correct that difference. You try and bridge the gap as much as possible, so that what is going out is when it brings in your revenues, they are either more than what you spend on your imports, or at least equal.
Okay.
So that's a reciprocal tariff.
Okay.
Basically.
Yeah. And in other words, you're looking at country to country and comparing the whatever you call the deficit or surplus
Yes.
scenarios, and then saying, look, we want to correct that. We want to make sure that we not, you're going beyond just protecting your manufacturing. You are saying, look, we need to correct this deficit by charging a little bit more so that we can sort of even out the ground.
Absolutely right.
Okay. Now let's go to the specifics, because a lot of people probably want to hear the very specific. President Trump announced a raft of tariffs against goods shipment into the U.S. and there was an immediate reaction that this had the immediate impact of affecting, resetting, so to speak, the global trade, upsetting global trade. Opinions are differing depending on who you are listening to coming from the US. Some are very mad, saying, we knew that Trump is this, Trump was going to do this, he's a bully, these MAGA guys, they just want to harass everybody in the world. America should be more gracious, we are upsetting our friends, etc., etc. But, and then of course there are those who feel this tariff business has completely reset the global trade and initiated a trade war. So I would like you to comment on that. Do we have a trade war? Is this what is happening, and how can that be addressed?
Yes, we do have a trade war, and it's essentially between the two biggest economies. America's economy is the largest in the world, closely followed by China's economy. The war is between the two of them because any movement in terms of percentages, in terms of tariff percentages, affects both countries in terms of tens, 20s, hundreds of billions, actually. It's not a small thing.
Yeah.
Any percentage movement has implications in terms of hundreds of billions of dollars.
Okay.
So Trump has levied a baseline tariff of 10% on goods that come from every country in the world.
Okay.
What that basically means is that where countries like Kenya have previously been zero rated in terms of tariffs, now there's a baseline of 10%.
Okay.
Tariff.
Right.
That's a minimum.
Yes.
Then he's moved on a case-by-case basis, looked at other countries like the European Union, then gone to countries like gone to China itself, where he has actually levied the highest tariff possible.
Yeah.
That's at about 145%.
Correct.
So the Chinese obviously are aggrieved, and they are quite unhappy about that because it makes their goods very uncompetitive when you send them to the US. So they have retaliated. So there has been a retaliatory tariff.
Okay.
And they have now levied a tax of 125% on all goods coming into China from the US.
Okay.
Yeah, so yes, there's that war. So it's the big two fighting.
Right.
And all other countries now taking positions, aligning themselves to either one of the big two.
Okay.
Yeah, so it affects the entire world because the entire world is now looking to see the outcome of this big two fighting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, maybe we can dive into that a little bit more. Sometimes our interest, because what happens in the global scene actually affects our scenarios here.
Yeah.
We import a lot of stuff from China. We as Kenya.
Yeah.
Are we first of all, how is the tariff scenario between Kenya and China?
We more or less are zero rated when it comes to our exports to China for certain things that we send there. I mean, our products are essentially foodstuffs like avocados. We are quite big on that. Nuts, a few other odds and ends, but nothing significant. We import a lot more from them.
Yes.
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 But whatever tariff we levy is offset by the fact that Chinese goods tend to be extremely cheap.
Right.
So we don't really feel the pinch when the goods come over here, when they get to our markets. They're actually significantly cheaper than manufacturing locally, unfortunately. Yeah, for Kenyans. Yeah,
that is the reality.
That is the reality.
Yeah, you know, I'm laughing because, you know, I don't know how we do not have, I don't think whether we have capacity even to challenge Chinese manufacturers. And because first of all, they manufacture a lot of goods across every category you think of. Clothes, electronics, you know, everything, telephone, mobile technology, shipping, containers, anything you would think about, machinery. They have a lot of stuff. And apparently I hear Chinese warehouses are stockpiled. They are looking for exit for their goods.
Correct.
So I don't know whether we stand a chance. But do you think, now that we are on that, do you think that Kenya should find a way of protecting our own industry in a way or another against Chinese imports?
I think the way, rather than outright protection, what we can do is learn from the Chinese.
Okay.
Figure out why they manufacture cheaper than we do.
Okay.
Here. Figure out why it is cheaper to buy a product from China and ship it, even with shipping charges, still end up saving more than you would if you, say, produced the item here or bought the item from the shelf here.
Okay.
We need to figure out what it is. And one of the things, of course, is the cost of power here, which is exorbitantly expensive.
Right.
Yeah, our cost of power is something that we need to talk about. We need to bring it down to acceptable levels, internationally acceptable levels.
Yes.
To attract either investors or to attract our own industries to set up to get into manufacturing.
Yes.
But why I say we need to learn from China rather than put barriers to trade against them is because a few odd years ago, I mean, we're talking of a couple of decades ago, 20, 30, 40 years ago, China was where we are right now.
Yes, yes.
And it has advanced rapidly, particularly over the last 20 years. So what are these things that the Chinese have done that we can learn from? And I'll give you an example of how rapidly they have advanced. In the year 2000, the Chinese middle class, and you know, middle class are the drivers of any economy. The Chinese middle class was around 2% of the total population.
Okay.
As it stands right now, 2025 figures, the Chinese middle class is over 50% of the population. What have they done between 2000 and now that Kenya can learn from? Because we are alike. We have the numbers in terms of labor. We have an abundance of raw materials. The only difference, of course, like I said, is power. What other thing can we do? What technology can we get from the Chinese so that we learn to manufacture as competitively as they do? Rather than protect ourselves from them, we need to partner with them and to learn from them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well said. So let's take an item like, for example, shoes. All right.
Yeah.
We have shoe manufacturing here in Kenya, but you know, everyone in Kenya knows the famous Butter Shoes company that has been in operation in Kenya, I think, for 60 plus years. Right. They have operated in this country for a very long time. Yeah. And they are popular. I think there's no question about it. They don't have a bad reputation as such. Now, but we know that, you know, the Chinese have had major inroads. I mean, there are so many. I mean, the numbers are overwhelming. The number of Chinese shoes in our market vis-a-vis locally manufactured shoes. Isn't there a justification for protecting, you know, our own manufacturing, especially in an area like that? I mean, or what do you think?
The problem with the protectionism is that you risk retaliation.
Okay.
So you protect our industries here by levying high taxes against goods, say, from China. then they retaliate
Okay.
by also levying the similar taxes on Kenyan goods accessing the Chinese market.
Okay.
So it's a question of who needs the other more.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we need the Chinese more than they need us. So
Correct.
so I think we can't try to be to misbehave. We just have to take things as they come, and that's a big challenge. Those of you that are watching and following this conversation, let's know what you think about tariffs. Are you maybe in some form of industry? Are you manufacturing stuff here? Are you looking for export? Are you having challenges exporting your stuff? Or maybe you are an importer and you feel that maybe you're under pressure, or local industries that would like to be protected. Maybe you feel that the Chinese have overtaken us. Please, let's engage. Let's know what you think about this tariff business. Maybe if you want the government to impose some tariffs, let's know, and we can address that issue, and we can discuss about that. All right. So, Leonard, so you actually think that because we are a small economy compared to China, we are basically a drop in the ocean. And I'm not too sure even they even feel our impact. You know, they can send us everything. They can send us pampers. They can send us handkerchiefs, anything we want, and they have them in abundance. And we again, let's look at, say, for example, the opportunities in exporting, because that's also very important. You've talked about the 10% baseline levy the Americans have imposed on everyone. How does that affect, for example, AGOA? We have this major, kind of preferential trade agreement with the Americans. It's called the AGOA. I think it's African Growth and Opportunity Act, which Americans voluntarily signed with a number of African countries, and I think it covers textiles and a few other products. What's going on there, and is that going to be affected? And is there a chance? Should our I'm asking several questions. Should our Minister of Foreign Trade now be on his plane to America to go and also get a chance to negotiate?
Yes, you've raised very interesting questions. Let's start with what AGOA is. As you've rightly called it, it's the African Growth and Opportunities Act that was started in the year 2000. It was meant to encourage African countries to export finished products rather than raw materials to the US.
Okay.
And it's a whole range of products, not just what we usually know, like the textiles and the likes, the leather. There's a whole range of products.
Okay.
But for some reason, African countries have focused more on textiles and leather products.
Okay.
But the range is much bigger. So AGOA was initially set for 15 years. So it should have ended in 2015. But then it was extended again for another 10 years. So it effectively ends on in September this year.
Okay.
Donald Trump's baseline tariff, that is now with reference to Kenya, and with reference now to other countries where there are higher tariffs. These tariffs supersede whatever AGOA had, because AGOA was an incentive for African countries, and it was zero rated when it comes to tariffs. There are no tariffs actually under AGOA. African countries could manufacture and do whatever they needed to do to send their goods across to the US duty free.
Okay.
So that comes to an end, and of course it's superseded by the baseline tariff for Kenya. But there's still light at the end of the tunnel, because Donald Trump intends to negotiate with African countries on a country-by-country basis.
Okay.
And this is what he had intended even in his first term before he lost to Biden. He had intended to negotiate with Kenya first and foremost, to agree on, to arrive at tariffs that were mutually beneficial for both the US and for Kenya, or rather to look at opportunities that are mutually beneficial for both the US and for Kenya.
Yes.
And to work on them to streamline laws and regulations and procedures, and then to extend the same now, to use Kenya as a template,
Okay.
to extend the same to the rest of the continent. So that is what is essentially happening now. I mean, there has been that announcement. I think a couple of weeks ago in the newspapers it was said that Donald Trump intends to revive that initiative, and Kenya should be negotiating with the US pretty soon.
Yeah.
And
okay.
once we arrive at a proper agreement, once we put the framework in place, it will serve as a template for the rest of the continent.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's very, very interesting news. That yes, the Americans are willing to negotiate with Kenyans, and they are also keen to kind of like make Kenya a test case for that discussion and maybe what they might do with other countries. That's very, very interesting. Now let's turn to the subject of aviations. And why I really wanted you to come to this show and help us understand what's going on is because, you know, on the small items, you know, exporting textiles to America or importing maybe a few laptops and things like that, those are very small, you know, kind of value items. Now there's the big ones, the aircraft, you know. Boeing is in the US. I know the other one is in France, in Europe.
Yes.
Airbus is in Europe. But a lot of airlines buy their aircraft from the Boeing. And apparently you mentioned, I think in a previous show, that Boeing is literally behind schedule in manufacturing aircraft to meet the orders. There are so many orders existing already, so they are kind of like they are back orders. If today you place an order for a Boeing, you might have to wait 2 years for you to have your aircraft delivered. So how is the airline industry affected by this tariff? Shall we be able to afford aircrafts maybe for our growing small industry?
It is good to realize how the aviation industry operates.
Okay.
Particularly from the manufacturing side.
Yes.
Now, and to relate it now to what is happening. The aviation industry, in terms of manufacturing, basically has what I would call a duopoly, where you have two dominant manufacturers selling to the entire world.
Okay.
And these two dominant ones, as you've rightly called them out, are Boeing, which is American, and then Airbus,
okay,
which is European. It's
yes,
a consortium of European companies.
Yes.
Manufacturing and selling their planes to the rest of the world.
Okay.
Because of COVID, because of the pandemic that happened in 2020, production slowed down somewhat.
Okay.
For both Boeing and for both Airbus.
Yes.
And production still hasn't gotten to where it was previously. For instance, Boeing, I think, when they go all out, when the production is at capacity, they usually make about 800 planes a month.
Okay.
But at the moment, they're only making about 500 planes a month.
Okay.
So there's a shortfall of about 300 planes every month.
Okay.
And that, now you're talking of planes that they make for the entire world.
All right.
Yeah, so that's a huge... Actually, let me correct that. They make about 800 planes a year, not a month.
Okay, okay,
yes.
okay.
They make 800 planes a year. The moment they are making just about 500 planes a year.
Right.
So they have a shortfall of about 300 planes every year.
Yes.
Airbus is similarly constrained. They are not quite meeting capacity, and it's because during the pandemic a lot of things happened. Supply lines got constricted, particularly after the pandemic when the war between Russia and Ukraine happened. A lot of parts were being made in Ukraine. Some parts were coming from China. Because a plane is interesting. It's a mishmash of parts from different parts of the world. It's not just one one house fitting, doing everything.
Okay.
You have parts that come from different parts of the world. So crucial parts are in short supply, even as we speak.
Okay.
So the supply is constricted. Now,
so I'm going to hold you there because my producer says we need to go for a break,
Okay.
And then we'll come back to the logistics and the scenario where we are on aircraft manufacturing. This is something that my guests can talk about the whole day. This is an amazing conversation. We're talking about tariffs and their impact in the global scene, losers and winners. We don't know who are the winners. We will be looking at that. But we know small countries and importers and exporters like Kenya. Obviously, we are on the receiving end of this battle. But we'll come back to that conversation after the break. So let's take a break. We are coming back to this conversation. Don't go away. Just grab yourself a cup of coffee and come back. All right.
Explore a world of knowledge at Elevation Bookshop. Dive into topics like marriage, money, and spiritual growth with our vast reading materials. But that's not all. We are thrilled to introduce new additions like stationeries, notebooks, modeling clay, dictionaries, pencils, kamusi, and more. And calling all students, gear up for success with our back-to-school items, providing you with everything you need to excel in every subject. At Elevation Bookshop, we're here to assist you in finding the perfect resources for your journey. Do you have specific preferences or looking for something special? Visit us at Kenya Cinema Plaza, mezzanine floor, or contact us on 0748 902 225. Elevation Bookshop. Enrich your life.
Anytime, anywhere. Watch Elevate TV on the go. Stuck in traffic? No problem. Catch up on powerful content. Pretending to work at the office? Stay inspired. One tap and you're ready to go. Download the Elevate TV app now on
Welcome back. We are talking about the tariff wars and winners and losers, and you know what some of these countries are going through, and the trade war that has resulted out of the action of America. As you all know, that America has changed a lot of things. Whenever America acts, the whole world has to reckon. And before we went to the break, we were talking about, we started talking about this particular industry, the aviation industry, aircraft sales and manufacture, where Americans and Europeans have a monopoly. Because in fact, it's not a monopoly, it's a duopoly. There are two major aircraft manufacturers in the world. That is Airbus in Europe and Boeing in the US, and they dominate the industry. So we want to go back to that conversation. So you were talking about, for example, how manufacturing was disrupted.
Yes.
COVID created a lot of backlog.
Yes.
In terms of manufacturing. A lot of industries were affected, including electronic manufacturing, computers and things like that, including some of the small technical things.
That's right.
There are still items, if you try to import today, you will still have some delays. Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so aviation was really affected. Let me talk let me talk about Airbus, for instance.
Yes.
If you placed an order now for no, let me talk about Boeing rather, not Airbus. If you placed an order for a Boeing right now,
yeah,
it will take you about 11 years to take delivery of that plane.
My goodness.
So that's how far back we are.
Okay.
Boeing are trying to ramp up their production. You know, they had challenges also with the 737 MAX 8.
Yes.
That was suspended for a while. I think they've now been given certification to produce the same. So they're producing them.
All right.
And I think they are going to ramp up production so that they kind of like double the output every month.
Yes.
Still, they'll even with that, even with the output ramped up, they'll just bring the backlog back to about 10 years.
Okay.
So if you place an order, then in about 10 years, you can take delivery of
your aircraft. All right.
So these planes are in demand, but the 737s are called narrow bodies because they have just one aisle. They are good for hops of about 4,000 kilometers. So very good for regional flights from here to Johannesburg, from here to up to Cape Town. 737 can actually do Nairobi, Cape Town.
Yes.
So they are good for those short hops.
Yes.
Some can actually do up to about, have a range of about 6 hours of flight. So you can fly from here to Dubai on a 737 MAX 8.
Okay.
So they are popular. These planes are very popular. I mean, for commercial airlines, including Chinese commercial airlines.
Okay.
So, so the way they are marketed, they are marketed in terms of positions.
Yes.
So you say we have this number of positions that we are manufacturing this year, and we market them on a first come, first served basis.
Okay.
So people now line up and place their orders, and they are allocated those positions. Now, should any one of their customers anywhere in the world
yes
decide to cancel on an order, the position comes up immediately and it is taken up by those who are on the waiting list, on the wait list, so to speak.
Yes.
So I know there's been a lot of conversation about China having failed to take delivery of some of its plans that it had ordered. I think
I think we need to let people know that the Chinese in this so-called trade war, the other day there was a news item that they refused to take orders of some aircrafts that they are ordered from America because of this back and forth between them and Trump. Yeah. So you're saying something about that?
Yes, actually what happened is the Chinese had ordered planes. I think the planes had been built for them. The positions had come up. Chinese had taken them on a first come, first served basis. They had been given the positions. Planes have been built for a number of Chinese airlines, and they are due for delivery this year. A number of them, quite a number of planes. But China has instituted retaliatory measures
yes
against the US
yes
in this tariff war, and those measures are 125% tariff against all products coming in from the US.
Right.
So unfortunately for these Chinese airlines, the planes from Boeing are included.
Yes.
So it does not make commercial sense for them to take delivery of these planes at this particular moment, because a levy of 125% is going to be slapped on them by the Chinese government.
Okay.
So these commercial airlines now are in a dilemma of sorts, because if they take up these planes, they'll attract a levy of 125%, which makes it commercially unviable. But if they let go of these planes, immediately those positions come up and others take them up.
Okay.
So what they've decided to do is to ask for delivery to be withheld for a period of time as the Chinese government and the American government come to an understanding in this tariff war.
Yes.
Hopefully, if the resolution is reached soon,
yes,
these planes will be delivered to China.
Yes.
So it's not accurate, as the press has been carrying it, to say that the Chinese are now retaliating by refusing to take delivery of American planes. No, that's not accurate.
Yes.
And if the Chinese refuse to take delivery of those planes, they will be taken up by others. In fact, I hear Malaysia is actually asking, saying, if any Chinese position comes up,
Yes.
we are ready to step in and to take it up immediately. Yeah, there's that kind of demand.
I can imagine, for example, Air Asia. Air Asia is one of the, I think it's a Malaysian airline.
Correct.
Yeah, Air Asia is absolutely is a winner in the whole region. It's a low-cost carrier. They are very efficient. They are everywhere in Asia. I've flown Air Asia several times.
That's right.
And so, I mean, they're amazing. And they are flying into Nairobi. They have a direct flight. We are not advertising for them, but yes, they fly Nairobi, Kuala Lumpur. You know, they started that daily flight, and it's made a big difference because now you don't have to go through Dubai and stuff like that. So that's the reality. So actually, you're saying. And I think this is the real the heart of this conversation, that tariffs actually they really just kind of spin the whole trade, the global trade, and put in a lot of challenges.
Correct. Yeah, it's people assume that if China were to stop buying from the US, it is the US alone that would suffer. It's not the US alone that would suffer. China would actually be really hard hit. In fact, if trade were to be suspended, say for a period of 2 or 3 or so months, the inventory in China would pile up to unmanageable levels, because America is the single biggest buyer of Chinese merchandise.
All right.
That is one. 2, it would lead to massive job losses in China itself.
Yes.
We are looking at an estimate of about 100 million jobs that will be lost.
Yes.
Because of a tiff between China and America.
Okay.
And for China, that is an existential threat.
Okay.
Because 100 million jobs in a government that is deemed quote-unquote autocratic, that rules more like a quote-unquote dictatorship, is a recipe for chaos, because people will become restive.
Okay.
Yeah, people will become restive, and it would probably make the country ungovernable in a way.
Okay.
So this trade wars hit both ways. For me, the way I look at it, I think Donald Trump knows what he's doing, and he knows that in as much as China has him in a spot, he also has some leverage that he can utilize, and the essence is to come to the negotiating table,
right? To
agree on what works for both America and what works for China.
Okay.
To get a middle ground.
Yeah.
So the rest of the world now can move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's very amazing. I don't know whether we can say the same thing with Europe. I was very surprised to learn that Americans import a lot of Europe. UK imports crude oil from US.
Right.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I thought UK was a leading extractor of crude oil and exporter.
Yeah.
You remember the BP. The old green BP.
That's
but
right.
now I learned that, because of, I think, climate issues, Britain is now a net importer of crude oil.
That's
so
right.
do you think that Britain has to negotiate with their cousins across the pod, the famous pod?
Yes, it is. It's happening. There's backroom peddling, stuff that doesn't come out in the open until the deal is signed,
right?
Until the dotted line is signed.
Yes.
But I have absolutely no doubts whatsoever that UK is negotiating with Trump, that the EU is negotiating with Trump, that Canada is negotiating with Trump, that Mexico is negotiating with Trump, that the Chinese is also doing the same.
Right.
The only reason why the Chinese cannot afford to come out overtly is because of the nature of the culture of the Chinese. When a leader gets into a tiff, a public tiff with another, that leader can never be seen to be losing face in public.
Okay.
Yeah, they must always look like they have the upper hand.
Right.
That's Chinese culture. So they will never say that they are hard hit, or they will never admit to being in a tight place.
Right.
But there will be a lot of negotiation in the back channels.
Right.
So that they come to an agreement.
Absolutely
No doubt that it's happening at the moment as we speak.
Yeah, by the way, there are a lot of interesting developments between America and China. Now let's come back to Kenya, because as you very well know, our team, Kenyan leaders, I mean the president no less a person than the president. Ruto actually has been in China this week. I don't know whether they have come back, and they have signed a number of agreements. Yeah. Now, so it seems like Kenya and China, we are in business either way. Yeah. And we are small players, Chinese are big players or something like that. Yeah. What's your view of that? Can we really ever extract a real deal from China, or we just go and sign on the dotted line, whatever we are given, we take?
I think we have opportunity to extract deals with China.
Right.
Kenya is significant in Africa, and this is seen through engagements with either the West or with the East.
Yes.
You remember last year, President William Ruto was went on a state visit
to the U.S.
To the U.S. And a state visit is not like an official visit. A state visit is at the instigation of the head of state on the other side.
Okay.
And you're taken in, and with pomp and pageantry, it's a lot of ceremony and that sort of thing. It's an honor when you invited for a state visit. So that was a year ago. Now China has extended the same to President Ruto. The Chinese leader has invited him on a state visit.
Yes.
It is the first visit by an African president coming after last year's FOCAC summit.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a Chinese summit. There was a summit in China on Africa-China relationships.
Yes, I remember that summit, yes.
And President William Ruto is the first African president invited to China after that summit.
Okay.
Then it's also instructive that his state visit was a 5-day state visit. Normally it would be like a 2-day or a 3-day affair.
Okay.
To extend it to a 5-day visit means they've gone all out.
Yes.
To honor this guest.
Yes.
So it tells you that there's a lot of premium placed on Kenya as a country.
Okay.
And the way I would look at it is, it's because Kenya is a gateway,
right,
into the eastern part of Africa, moving right through to the middle of Africa.
Okay.
We have Mombasa, which is a port city, and it forms what we call the Northern Corridor. That runs through Kenya all the way to Uganda, runs through Uganda to Rwanda, aspects of it branching out to Burundi, at some point branching out to southern Sudan.
Right.
All the way to the DRC.
Okay.
That's the Northern Corridor. And this Northern Corridor is very important for the Chinese because, one, it serves as it's an extension of their Belt and Road Initiative.
Okay.
Which is a program that they've had over the years, and it opens up Africa, at least this part of Africa, to markets for Chinese goods and services. But at the same time, it also enables the Chinese to extract raw materials from certain parts of Africa.
Okay. Okay.
To move them out through the port of Mombasa.
Right.
Back to China.
Yes.
Yeah, so that is why Africa is important, and particularly Kenya. That is why Kenya is very important, and we have the upper hand now. There are certain things that, because we are caught in between the West and the East, and to some extent the Middle East, because the Middle East are also looking at us and dangling goodies.
Okay.
So we are in between. So
maybe-
this is the time now to extract maximum benefit. To
Okay.
go with the tough negotiators who can sit in a room of Chinese, or who sit in a room of Westerners, or sit in a room with people from the Middle East and say, look, this is our irreducible minimum.
Yes.
This is what we want from you in exchange for what you want from us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And maybe that's why perhaps I think what has come out of the negotiations so far, what's coming out of the Chinese visit is the fact that I think the president has already signed up a deal for extension of the SGR.
Correct.
All the way to the border, which perhaps is more a Chinese interest than a Kenyan interest. Or rather, I mean, the Chinese stand to gain overall if their aim is to, you know, of course, maybe also call the Ugandans, give them a same treatment, agree with them, they build the railway, and before you know it, the railway is all the way to Congo. And I think while we are the people on the ground, country, local, you know, regional countries will gain, but the Chinese obviously will gain overall, because if you are extracting, you know, heavy, you know, raw materials, obviously the railway is your best chance of actually moving large volumes.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I look at them as development partners. Yes, I mean, when you have a development partner, both in an ideal situation,
yes,
it's a win-win.
Yes,
for both of you, because the development partner can finance your development, but at a premium.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, there must be something in it for them when they're financing.
Yes.
So there'll be Chinese banks financing and earning money. Yeah, there'll be Chinese companies, construction companies coming in and excuse me, the Chinese companies coming in and setting up the
yeah.
Sorry
yeah. So it's some little. I think they are attracted by the flowers.
Flowers, that's right.
Yeah. So yes, the Chinese contractors, as usual.
Yeah, there'll be raw materials from China. So
yes.
the industries from China will benefit.
Okay.
In the setup of or the extension of this railway line.
Okay.
But we also benefit because as it is right now, this railway line cannot break even. The railway line from Nairobi to from Mombasa to Nairobi, and the extension from Nairobi to Naivasha cannot break even as currently built.
Yes,
we must have that linkage to the border, Malaba, and that extension all the way to Uganda for it to be economically viable. So it is in the interests of both countries that this deal has been inked.
Yes.
So that the railway line can break even for us, and hopefully give us some return, and for the Chinese, of course, both ways to extract their resources, whatever resources they need, particularly from the DRC, but importantly, again, to get their manufacturing, get their industries moving. The industries that put up this infrastructure.
I think, without question, I think one of the challenges I have with people who look at some of these infrastructure, projects, sometimes people are short-sighted, in the sense that if you look at Africa, the biggest challenge of Africa is logistics.
Correct.
We are rich in minerals, whatever we talk about, even if we protected those minerals or whatever, and we cast the colonists, unless we are able to move those products, they have no use to anyone. You know, I mean, even if flying, you cannot fly a ton of cobalt from DRC with an aircraft to China. That's not going to happen.
That's right.
Yeah, so I think people need to be very realistic when they think about some of these infrastructure projects. There are some things that can't happen otherwise. You have to move the goods on land.
I totally agree with you, and it's the reason why Africa has lagged behind, because we don't have an intra-Africa network.
Yes.
We have the raw materials, we have the market in terms of population size.
Yes.
In fact, Africa is actually home to 17% of the world's population. But when it comes to interconnectedness, we are not as connected as, say, Europe, as the US, or even China itself. We have things that we have need of here in this country. For instance, it is cheaper for Zambians to produce a day-old chicken than it is for Ugandans. And if there's a connection between Zambia and Uganda, a rail connection,
Yes.
then Ugandans will be getting their day-old chickens from Zambia.
Yes.
It is the peanuts that come from Malawi
Yes.
are better in terms of quality, in terms of taste and texture, than the ones that we grow here in Kenya. So we would actually leave the Malawians growing peanuts and having them export the same to us.
Okay.
Then we have avocados, we have mangoes, we have a whole lot of things that would actually work for Southern Africa, or would rather be transported all the way to Egypt or North Africa if we had the infrastructure. We don't have the infrastructure. So that's a big impediment, and it's a reason we really need to invest now.
Absolutely, and of course your airline industry is plagued with the same challenges. Intra-Africa trade or even travel, for example, it is actually cheaper. An airline ticket to Dubai is cheaper than an airline ticket from Nairobi to Lagos.
Correct.
Yeah.
Essentially because of protectionism.
Yes.
Within Africa, we have too much. We have many barriers that we've put up.
Yes.
I'll give you an example. Within Europe, when it comes to airline travel, the charge per passenger is about $10.
Okay.
Airlines charge $10 as a handling charge.
Yes.
For passengers, per passenger in certain jurisdictions. When it comes to Africa, the charge goes up to about $100 per passenger. It's 10 times more than Europe.
Yes.
So it becomes an impediment to flights within Africa. So sometimes you find it easier, say if you want to go to some part of either West Africa or North Africa or someplace, many people find it easier to get out of Africa then fly back. Now, if you want to go, say, to Sierra Leone,
yes,
it is easier to fly to Switzerland than connect now to Sierra Leone because we don't have any direct flight to Sierra Leone from Kenya.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
And very, very interesting indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that you're following this conversation very carefully and learning. And we would like to see your comments and concerns if you have any, and maybe just tell us what you think about this whole business of tariffs. The tariff wars, and I am hoping that we are opening that up for you as you discuss and look at how something happens in the US and affects everybody in the rest of the world. So thank you so very much indeed for your very, very, very insightful information here. And I believe that anybody who is in some of these spaces, and even just thinking of traveling, they have very good ideas that or even importing or manufacturing, setting up manufacturing here. You can tell there's a lot of potential in Africa, but we have our own many problems. All right, so before we wrap this up, I would like to hear from you. What do you think that where the opportunities are in this whole trade war? I think during the break we mentioned something like, for example, maybe African small-scale manufacturers should look at maybe manufacturing small things that can be exported, say, to Boeing. Boeing might want to buy some tires from a manufacturer in Africa, and they might even want to come and help us set up quality factories so that they can also, help us lift ourselves up.
Yes, I totally agree with you. There are things that can be done here that don't need to be done in the US or China, or there are things that China is doing that still can be done here. As you mentioned an example of components
Yes.
Some small components that are not exactly rocket science.
Yes.
Say like the tires, as you mentioned earlier, the tires of the aircraft. We can set up here, we can tool factories here to manufacture some of those components.
Yes.
At more or less the same cost as China would.
Okay.
And for the US. Then there are other industries, many other industries. For example, South Africa actually is big when it comes to imports. And the reason why they are big on imports is because they import a lot of components and raw materials for the either assembly of motor vehicles or the manufacture of motor vehicle components for export, re-export to Europe and to the US.
Okay. Okay.
So those are things that we can do here. We can actually begin to assemble like door frames for certain motor vehicles, American brands.
Yes.
Components, certain engine components, because we have the expertise, we have the labor, we have youth bulge. Yeah, if we sort out our power issues, then it's something that can easily be done so that we diversify our exports. We are the biggest export market by volume out of Jomo Kenyatta, but it's just essentially chilled meat, fresh fruit and veggies.
Yeah, I mean to understand, we have to wrap up.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. There you go. So there are opportunities, in this whole global tariff wars. Countries have to realign. Countries have to prepare themselves and make adjustments and changes where necessary. So every problem produces some opportunities. It is up to every country to look out for the opportunities where they are. So thank you very much indeed for following this conversation. I believe you have learned. I believe we have maybe answered some of the questions or opened up other questions. Keep your comments coming. Thank you very much for staying tuned in for the Gigi Report. Thank you so much, my brother Leonard, for being on the set today.
A pleasure.
May God bless you so much. God bless you. Bye for now. We see you next week. Keep it elevate. God bless you. Bye for now.